decide to do the 50-50. All the money's collected in there. 50% of that money that's collected from Brentwood would go back into what we call a grant match program. So if you had a project, let's say, I'll just use small numbers that cost $10,000, you would get that $5,000, and then we give you the $5,000 to go towards that project.
But those funds, that would keep going on with this new proposition you're talking.
Yeah, we're at a point now where we don't see the need to turn them down. What we would do is we would implement some sort of that's what we're going through the rate process. We would implement some sort of program, like a 50-50 match type of thing throughout the entire district. That's something that we're looking at doing. That's necessarily that's going to happen. It depends on what the rate commission decides. But going forward, we see the benefit in those areas that wanted it to have that, to collect that tax and tax themselves, and then kind of get the ball rolling. We're hoping that will generate some positive when we go to the ballot.
Thank you.
Great. Anybody else? Okay. Sean, Jeff, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Yep, thanks.
All right, that moves us down to item 5, public hearing. We have 2 items under public hearing. The first is the City of Brentwood has submitted for a text amendment Chapter 400 of the Brentwood City Code relating to the Architectural Review Board by assigning the duties of the city's Architectural Review Board to the members of the city's Planning and Zoning Commission. So I'm going to gavel open public hearing on that matter. Just for housekeeping purposes, we're kicking this over to Public Works to take this back up later this month, but for publishing and noticing requirements, we went ahead and just did it this way. So we're going to continue this public hearing for this particular item, but if anybody in the public cares to address the board on this particular matter now, feel free to do so. If not, you will have another opportunity when we bring this back to the board. Okay, so with that, we will just continue on, and that gets us to the second public hearing, and that's the conditional use permit and site plan review for the Kitchen Conservatory as an establishment providing cooking classes, offering instruction and food preparation on site for the property zone GC General Commercial and located at 9001 Manchester Road. With that, I will gavel open that public hearing. Again, anybody in the public care to address the board on that matter, now is the time to do so. See none? Okay, we will gavel closed that public hearing. Thank you, everybody. That brings us to citizens' comments. Anybody in the, any of the citizens, any of the audience members care to address the board? Now is the time to do so. You'll be given up to 3 minutes. No one, okay. Brings us down to mayor and alderman reports. First up is the mayor. I have no report. Alderman Plufka.
No report.
Alderwoman Tice.
No report.
Alderwoman Sims.
No report.
Alderman Waggy.
No report.
Alderman Lockmuller.
The Public Safety Committee meeting will be held here Wednesday, the 26th at 5:30. Thank you.
Alderman Gould.
Yes, the next Ward 3 meeting will be actually next week, next Tuesday on the 25th. We will be sending out information, and that will be virtual.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Yes, I have some information about a program that the library is doing to share with people who haven't heard of it. And it's called Reference Services by Mail, and it works with correctional institutions. Inmates can send questions by mail, and the Maplewood Library, our library, the city and the county are doing this. Most of their questions come from an institution in Licking, Missouri, which is south of Rolla. And they said some of the questions are about operating food trucks as a business when they get out. They get several inquiries a week about entrepreneurship. A lot of them deal with transitioning back to society, not the legal aspects, but the social aspects of transitioning back. A lot are spiritual or religious questions, and they said the most interesting one was a query about Islamic transgender laws. One person clips comics and sends to them along with his query, so they're enjoying that. They've had 229 letters in the last 2 months. So it is something that's going and the inmates are taking advantage of. And they said they're enjoying it. They're interesting questions and the inmates seem to be appreciative. So they are not too many places in the country that are doing this. It's rather a unique program, but they're happy to be doing it.
Thank you. And Alderman Shelton.
The report.
Okay, brings us down to City Administrator report. We have one item, I believe, and that's update by Craig Schluter.
Good evening. Craig Schluter with Navigate Building Solutions. So for the typical Brentwood-Bound update, I'll be running through the construction cost since the last Board of Alderman meeting was $82,068.24. Next is soft costs. Total spent since the last Board of Alderman meeting was $216,650.41, and that was on material testing, design fees, project management fees, and development consulting. And the only other update is the Great Rivers Habitat Alliance. We received that $20,000 check, so that was coded in the additional funding sources.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Craig? Alderman Gould.
I do have a question about that. In the latest renderings, have we identified where that is going to be?
Yeah.
I didn't notice that in the latest renderings.
Yeah, it won't show up in the renderings because it's a very small area
Okay.
of just some plantings, like wetland plantings. So it's significant, but from a aerial drone view,
Understood.
you won't see it. But the area is roughly like the southwest corner of the Public Works facility. So where that Phase 1 trail comes down, the Public Works facility is right around that area.
Okay.
So we have kind of a blown-up area of that. I can send that to you if you have interest of it, but it's just a little small patch.
Sure, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you so much, Craig.
Great, thank you.
Drops us down to item 9, the consent agenda. We have 5 items. Are there any questions about any of the items on the consent agenda? Any requests to remove any of those items? Alderman O'Neill.
I have a question about Resolution E, that this is something that is being done because the target audience or the participants are also taxpayers and clients of the Brentwood area. If that is true for the school district, it seems logical it should be true also for the library. The same parameters exist. And if the library has been using the rec center, they've been paying a fee, maybe a reduced fee, but they are paying for use of the rooms there. So it seems that if we do it for the school district here, we ought to take a look at the parameters for the public library also.
Alderwoman O'Neill, I think with that, it's probably best if we just remove that item from the consent agenda, that we'll take that up as a separate item.
Okay.
Okay.
Your Honor, I didn't hear her object to the inclusion of E, just that it would generate further conversation about broadening the policy.
Do you have an objection to it being included in the consent agenda, or would you like to have a separate discussion about this?
Let's include it, and at some point we'll have a discussion before next meeting or whatever to see if, or just a discussion at some point about
Okay.
fairness.
With that, then the chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Roll call?
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Yes.
Alderman Shelton?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Vote is 8-0.
Consent agenda passes. That brings us down to old business. Is this really under old business, or would this be new business? We're doing it first and second?
Because the board already approved this.
Okay.
Last year.
Okay. So I guess this is bill number 6360.1. Can we get a first reading by title only, please, Mr. City Attorney?
Yes, Mayor, you may. First reading of Bill 6360.1, an ordinance amending Section 105.030 of the Brentwood City Code and establishing new wards in response to the 2020 Decennial Census.
Great, thank you. Whitney, are you presenting on this? If you wouldn't mind, come on down.
Whitney Kelly on behalf of the City of Brentwood. When we sent the revised maps that y'all adopted back in December to the county, they recognized an error from the census tracts. They had put all of the residents of the village of Brentwood within the Ward 4 census tract when the building actually splits Ward 4. I mean, they put them in Ward 2 when the building actually splits between Ward 2 and 4. So their recommendation, and we tend to agree, was since y'all all approved all of the residents as part of Ward 2, we would just adjust the map so that all of the villas of Brentwood was in Ward 2, to be consistent with your prior action.
Okay. Do we have any questions on that? Okay, we would, Alderwoman Sims?
That was not the intent. No, Ward, oh, it did move it.
I know there was discussion about adjusting some of, I thought we only talked about one portion of Ward 2 that was on west of Brentwood going over to Ward 1. Does that line reflect, it just looks different from what I remember.
Yes, it does. We can certainly clarify that if y'all want to continue the item, but it was not the intent that O.E. Clark's was being moved to Ward 4.
That would
I
be
mean,
my
yeah.
preference.
Okay.
Or that it would be consistent. I mean, I understand there was the issue, more to a more, that, I understand the issue with the villas, but I thought that we had I just want to make sure that the boundary lines to the west reflect what we voted on previously.
Yeah,
So the problem that we have is Exhibit A, which is what the ordinance is going to be using, is incorrect.
So
So what do we do?
there is no hurry unless you want to.
You could amend it verbally and.
Here
then-
tonight?
Here tonight, and then just have the map reflect your amendment.
Okay.
yeah.
Do you care to make that amendment?
Well, I guess, and I don't have what we had, I know we spent a lot of time hashing out the boundary lines that aren't part of what's on the docket tonight, and I just want to make sure that the map we have reflects what we voted on previously. I'm not looking to change anything or
Might be better just to bring it back for second reading.
Why don't we just do that? We'll just leave it with the first reading tonight. We'll have we'll do a staggered reading on that, and we'll take it up at the next meeting for a second read. Other than that, any other discussion? Okay, great. Thank you so much. That brings us down to new business, and the first item under that is Bill number 6367. Can we get a first reading by title only, please, Mr. City Attorney?
Yes, Mayor, as soon as it loads up. First reading of Bill 6367, an ordinance approving an agreement with Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission for pedestrian improvements for the Brentwood-Bound Deer Creek Greenway Connector, STP 5577. Parentheses 638, close parens, pedestrian improvements project.
Great, thank you. Dan, are you presenting on this?
Okay. This is pretty similar to what we've done in the past. If you recall, Rosalie, the STP for that, has a contract with MoDOT, as did Litzinger and Hanley Industrial Court. So this is for the shared use path that would be going from along the east side of Brentwood Boulevard, running alongside of the Metro Garage, connecting all the way down at Marshall, and then also running on that north side of Russell between Brentwood Boulevard and Bremerton. So we did receive approval last year from MoDOT, and then now this is just for the contract so that going forward with construction, then we can get our reimbursement just like we do with Rosalie. So that's what this is for, and we would ask for a first and second reading.
Do we have any questions for Dan on that? Yeah, Alderman Lockmuller.
Motion for a second read.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Alderman Lockmuller, and I called the second by Alderman Weggie. Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Can we get a second read on Bill number 6367 by title only, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Second reading of Bill 6367, an ordinance approving an agreement with Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission for pedestrian improvements for the Brentwood-Bound Deer Creek Greenway, connector STP 5577, parens 638, close parens, pedestrian improvements project.
Great, thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to perfect 6367 in the ordinance form.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Roll call?
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Yes.
Alderman Shelton?
Yes.
By a vote of 8-0, Bill number 6367 will become ordinance number 5001.
Great, thank you. Brings us up to Bill number 6368. Can we get a first reading by title only, please?
Yes, Mayor. First reading of Bill 6368, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri approving a certain easement with Spire, Missouri, Inc., authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, and containing a severability clause.
Dan, it's all yours.
Back again. This is for a natural gas relocation. This is over at Breckenridge Industrial, the bridge, so real close to Midwest, or what used to be Midwest Floors. So there's very little space, and I know Spire doesn't want to hang on the bridge, so this is giving them a strip of land that's across our property that they can use, and we always retain the ownership. So this is what this is for, and they're asking for this easement so they can proceed with the relocation work.
Okay, do we have any questions for Dan on this? We would like to have a second reading, so if we could have a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Can we get a second read of Bill 6368 by title only, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Second reading of Bill 6368, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri approving a certain easement with Spire, Missouri, Inc., authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, and containing a severability clause.
Great, thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to perfect 6368 in ordinance form.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Yes.
Alderman Shelton?
Yes.
Okay. By a vote of 8-0, Bill number 6368 will become ordinance number 5002.
Great, thank you, Kelly. Brings us down to Bill number 6369. Can we get a first reading of 6369 by title only, please?
Yes, Mayor. Bill number 6369, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 4915, and granting approval of a new conditional use permit and site development plan for the establishment providing cooking classes offering instruction on food preparation, which is done on-site relative to property numbered 9001 Manchester Road.
Great, thank you. Whitney?
Yes, Whitney Kelly on behalf of the City of Brentwood. This application initially received approval from the Board of Aldermen on February 3rd, 2020. However, due to COVID, construction did not start. The code only allows for one-year extension, which was granted last year and will be up this February 3rd. So they did come back through for a new conditional use permit. There were some minor modifications to the site, mostly to the building. They reduced it by 1,000 square feet, so it is now a 6,007 square feet building. And there was, the prior building was all brick and stone. They did introduce a new ephes element, which is just above the windows, but it was consistent with, largely consistent with the MC district regulations that it's be less than 30%. However, it is a one-story building, so it is on the first floor, but that was due to costs related due to construction material costs due to COVID too. So the board, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval at its prior meeting on January 12th. Sorry.
Last week.
Yeah, last week.
Was it unanimous, just out of curiosity?
It was unanimous.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. We have any questions? The applicant is here, I believe, yeah. Alderwoman Tice.
I guess I just want to clarify that the, some of the planting issues that were raised, did Planning and Zoning deal with those?
Yes, that is a condition within the ordinance, is that they will match the prior planting approval. The property owner to the west, Jindal, objected to one of the trees, which we indicated we can work with the applicant just to relocate elsewhere, mostly in the buffer area site. So they agreed to that, and that is a condition of approval.
Thank you.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Whitney, on the cross-access agreement, I know there's one with the neighbor to the west. Now, to the east, MoDOT's kind of pushing, eliminating a lot of curb cuts. So if that property to the east ever gets redeveloped, then there's somewhat of an agreement that there's a cross-access, so some of those parking right up there by Manchester Road would be eliminated and allowed to cut through. I'm just not quite sure how that all is planned out.
That was a carryover from the previous discussion, so the board did not get into that largely in this discussion because the site plan didn't change all that much. But that is a condition. The condition states that if the adjacent properties to the east or west redevelop in the future and warrant access management along Manchester Road, then cross-access would be located as mutually agreed upon between property owners. So that when that does occur, that would be in negotiation with any new development to the east or
Between
the
the
west.
owners.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Plufka.
I just, as a point of clarification, isn't the property to the east maybe 3 or 4 feet lower than this property? It's like a small retaining wall there, isn't there?
There is a small retaining wall, but any redevelopment can deal with the regrading of the site.
That would be on the property to the east, not on this property.
Right.
Okay.
That would have to be mutually agreed upon with and as part of any future project review of that property.
Thank you. Anyone else? Alderman Weggie, Alderwoman O'Neill, nothing?
No.
Okay, great. I think at this point, we definitely want, yes, Alderman Plufka.
I would make a motion for a second reading.
Great, thank you. Got a motion and a second for a second read. Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, can we get a second read of Bill 6369 by title only, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Second reading of Bill number 6369, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 4915 and granting approval of a new conditional use permit and site development plan for an establishment providing cooking classes, offering instruction on food preparation, which is done on-site relative to property numbered 9001 Manchester Road.
And can we get a motion to perfect Bill 6369 in ordinance form?
So moved.
Second.
Right. Any discussion? Alderman Lockmiller.
I'd just like to comment, I'm so happy to see that this is being resurrected and going through. The people in the third ward, as well as all of Brentwood, have looked at that vacant bowling alley for years, and this is going to be a vast improvement. And I think as long as the way we're doing Brentwood Boulevard and the fact that this property is being done, that Manchester Road corridor is going to look beautiful. I thank you for bringing this before us again.
Alderman Plufka.
I would echo everything Steve just said, that it's what a terrific upgrade.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. We're very happy. No, being a little premature here, I guess we still need to take the vote. Roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka.
Here's one anyway, yes.
Alderwoman Tice.
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims.
Yes.
Alderman Weggie.
Yes.
Alderman Gould.
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Yes.
Alderman Shelton.
Yes.
By a vote of 8-0, Bill number 6369 will become ordinance 5003.
Great, thank you. And once again, welcome, second time to the city of Brentwood, Ms. Corey. And I know we all are looking forward to seeing that bowling alley coming down and your beautiful building going up in place. So, welcome. Oh, thank you for working with us. That brings us to the last item under new business, and that's Bill number 6370. Can we get a first reading by title only, please?
Yes, Mayor. Bill number 6370, an ordinance granting approval of site development plan for the exterior renovation of the building at 2428 South Brentwood Boulevard for St. Louis Cremation.
Whitney, I think you're presenting again.
Thank you. Whitney Kelly on behalf of the City of Brentwood. This is renovating the existing structure that was the former Hunan Express restaurant to an office use only for St. Louis cremation. No services or visitation will occur at this location. It is purely an office function, and therefore the traffic impact study was not completed as part of this review, as they are decreasing the traffic and using the site largely as is. The applicants are making exterior changes to the building and adding some landscaping and new signage. And the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval at its meeting on February 12th. The architect is here via Zoom if you have any questions on the building itself.
Okay, do we have any questions for Whitney or anybody? Yes, Alderwoman Sims.
I don't really have a question. I just feel like it's worth repeating. No services, no cremation. This is just office, right?
Correct.
Okay, I hope when people go and read the minutes, they'll
Just the
do a deeper dive into more of the description. But I
Right.
mean,
The office will be, people will come there to pick out the urn and make arrangements for off-site. No services or any cremation activity will occur at this site.
I got Alderwoman O'Neill first, Alderman Gould. Yes, Alderwoman O'Neill.
I had a question about the signage. It looked in one of the photos as though the pole sign that's there will continue. Is there any way of changing that to a lower sign? Has that been discussed?
That is discussed in the landscape plan that was submitted. They did show a monument sign and that location, and the pole sign being removed. So any new signage would have to require meeting the current code. So as a condition of approval does include that for any sign permit that they have to demonstrate that the landscaping and the sign would not interfere with any site visibility entering or exiting the site, so.
Okay, thank you.
But I think just to follow up on that, Alderman O'Neill, I had the same question today, and that was, what assurance do we have that the pole sign is not going to continue? Is it going to, since it's a change of use, and the way I read the code, they cannot continue with a pole sign. And I just, and as you and I talked, it would appear as though that's part of the plan is by the way the code works, the sign has to come down, the pole sign has to come down.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're all clear on that.
The introductory part of subsection 5 does say all signs shall conform to chapter 410.
Perfect. Okay, Alderman Gould.
Yeah, I have a question regarding the parking. It seems like with the current boundaries of the lot, there's only 4 spaces, those parallel parking. So how many offices are going to be in here? And then if there are people that come, where do they park?
The current parking is they are planning to use the site as is. So my understanding is people have been parking on the adjacent lot to the south.
Do they have an agreement for that?
To the south or the north?
That I am not sure of, but because it is an office use only, the parking would be very limited, and so we can add that as a condition if we need to, is that they provide a shared parking agreement.
Was this addressed at all, planning and zoning, the parking issue?
It didn't really come up as there. The traffic engineer indicated that he didn't have an issue with the use because of it's going down from a restaurant use to a office use.
Do we know if there's a cross-access agreement with the property to the north? Because I know that's where a lot of the users of the restaurant would park. It's in I guess it's the Brentwood Congregational Church parking lot.
I'm not sure, and I don't know if that was ever legal or just, people did it.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure there aren't any assumptions, because of that, I want to make sure there aren't any assumptions that they're going to have parking either in that lot or to the south when they really only have 4 identified spots for
their lot.
This lot itself.
Looks like our city administrator would like to say something.
We can confirm it, but there we're very astute at the church. I know that when the city wanted to use their backlog for parking, the city had to try and negotiate for shared use. But we can confirm that that's in place. If not, then we can bring.
Yeah, and if it is, it makes sense that it might, because I'm sure operating hours are different, right? But
Mr. Sroti has his hand raised.
Okay, is that the architect?
Yes.
I'm sorry, who is that? What's his name?
Throat.
Robert
Sirot?
Sroti.
Mr. Sirot or Siroti, if you would, you've got the floor if you want to address this.
Yes, hi, Robert Strode here. So there are only 3 offices in this building that are proposed, and I would say probably 90% of the time, only 2 will be occupied. So that would leave 2 additional parking spaces. I'll have to discuss with the owner whether or not they have a shared parking agreement with the congregation to the north. But I can't imagine that there'll be more, that there will be more traffic than there was at the Hunan Lock. I would anticipate much less, so I can't imagine parking being an issue. And the only alternative would be some kind of an agreement with the neighbor to the north, because obviously the building takes up the entire site.
Okay. Any other questions?
We could certainly include a condition if you wanted to amend the ordinance to provide a cross-access or shared parking agreement.
Yeah, I mean, we would need I'm sorry, you would do that?
I would not.
I don't think we should. I mean, we need the applicant to agree to that. And
Okay.
it seems to me probably the better course is to stagger this and not to have a second read tonight, unless the board wants to overrule me and go ahead and do that. If not, then we will do that. And I would suggest, just based on the questions that I'm hearing, probably be best for the applicant to look into that before the next meeting. Okay, great. Thank you.
Am I still on?
Yes.
So, just out of curiosity, did that Hunan Lock have a shared agreement with the neighbor to the north?
I'm not sure that we know.
Okay. Because I mean, so the second reading would then be when, next month, or
Well,
how often do you guys meet?
is there a timeline on that? Is there
It would be the next meeting in February, 4th.
2 weeks.
February the 4th?
Would that preclude the,
February 7th, I'm sorry, February 7th.
would that preclude the owners from utilizing that building on a temporary basis?
I would think so. I think those are questions you probably ought to just take up with Whitney tomorrow. Because as it stands right now, the board is just they're not gonna have a motion for a second read tonight.
Okay.
So I would just give Whitney a call tomorrow. Okay?
Okay, great.
Thank you. That brings us down to citizen comments. Anybody in the audience care to address the board? Now it's time to do so. We have nobody online? Okay. And once again, we are requesting that the board go into closed session tonight following this, and that's pursuant to, it looks like all 3. RSMO 610.021 subsections 1, legal, 2, real estate, and 3, personnel. Can we get a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to go into closed session and
adjourn
adjourn therefrom, right. Any discussion on that? Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Yes.
Alderman Shelton?
Yes.
Motion carries by a vote of 8 to 0.
Great, thank you, everybody. Let's just reconvene in the conference room.